When you buy a house, when you enter a contract, it's all about convincing the seller that you're going to be able to go to closing. So that's the biggest thing. The only thing you can control in that is getting that fully underwritten mortgage approval. So
welcome to the latest episode of We Fixed Real Estate. We've got Mark Levy on to the show today, Fred Glick today, and it's the new year. It's 2026. Many people are starting new, fresh changes and maybe looking for a house. So we thought it'd be a good time to take a deep dive into home buying 101.
Yeah, don't be scared. It is, you have seen 80 million TikToks on there. Like there's some agents that say, here's the top 10 things you need to do if you want to buy a house. Number 1, call me. I'll take care of the other 9. Doesn't work that way, dudes. I want you to know everything. That's our whole thing. I want you to make decisions that are smart. For example, you're going to have to pick inspectors to inspect a property. You don't just go with whoever the agent picks because they're going to pick like the same person they've been dealing with for 50 years, who may be overcharging, who may not be that great. You just don't know. So it's all about choices. It's all about you understanding. That is number 1, and that is the most important thing to think about.
Choices are number 1, but there's one thing that's even the very, very first thing you do before searching for a house, and that is
get a fully underwritten mortgage pre-approval. Not pre-approval, Mark. Wrong. The first person you need to talk to before you even think about talking to a real estate agent is a mortgage person who can get you this and only this. And it doesn't matter if it's conventional, FHA, VA, jumbo, no matter what type of loan it is, except there's some weird loans. But if you're in that weird loan category, you're a business professional and it's a whole different story. Get a fully underwritten mortgage pre-approval. Now, what does that mean? So when you buy a house, you got to go through the mortgage process. So you can either do it later or do it ahead of time so that you get rid of any and all aggravation. So you could spend a month fixing up what you got to fix up to make sure your approval's right. And now you're free to go and buy a house without any aggravation. If you do happen to talk to an agent and they said, oh, we just get a pre-approval and then we have a mortgage contingency, you say, thank you, goodbye, because they're going to cost you money. Okay. The idea is with a fully underwritten pre-approval, if there's no competition for a property, you can go in and tell the seller, look, my buyers are fully underwritten pre-approved. You don't have to worry about them getting a mortgage. That calms the seller down because when you buy a house, when you enter a contract, it's all about convincing the seller that you're going to be able to go to closing. So that's the biggest thing. The only thing you can control in that is getting that fully underwritten mortgage approval. So what does that mean? So, for example, if you went to our site at Arrivva.mortgage and you click on a button that says apply online, it's going to ask you about 400,000 questions. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just basically, who are you? Give me your identifiers like your social security number, your telephone, your address for the last 2 years, where you've worked for the last 2 years, what your income is, what your assets are. And you really don't have to put the debts in because the debts come from the credit report. And there's things you think are debts that aren't. So don't put anything in the debts. Let the credit report come up.
That's a good tip.
Because that is what the lender is going to look for. Now,
I'd love something you don't have to.
Exactly. Now, there may be things that aren't on the credit report that eventually, because of other documents, they're going to want and need. Let me give you an example. If you're paying child support, it's not on the credit report, but it comes out of your paycheck. Or you turn in the divorce decree property settlement agreement. It shows you're paying. So you're going to have to show a history of the payments. Now, depending on the county you're in, that may take some time to get. So that's why there's a great reason for getting your mortgage approval cleared up ahead of time. Because if you got to go to some outside source to get documentation that the lender's going to want, it takes time sometimes, and they really don't care about your deadlines. Because if you had a 7 or 10-day mortgage contingency and it takes 2 weeks for them, guess what? You got a problem. This is why. That's a great reason. I just love that. That's a great reason for getting that fully underwritten mortgage approval. Sometimes you're going to use bonuses and overtime or commissions for your income, and we have to get an employment verification from your employer to verify this and give us the numbers. Although we try to get it from, there's places called The Work Number and some other automated services, but that works for a big company. But if you're working for Joe's Plumbing, Joe is not hooked up electronically with everything, and Joe's going to have to lay it out for us. So it's got to be a form. It's got to be said. Got to wait for them to get back. Usually the bank accounts don't have too much, but here's the things to think about. Cash, the green stuff that we all used to use all the time and get out of the ATMs is not allowed, basically, in the mortgage business. So if you've been sitting, your uncle's been saving up $10,000 for you in cash. He's had it under the mattress and he says, here, take 10 grand to buy a house with, and you stick it in the bank. Well, the lender's going to ask you, hey, where'd that big deposit come from? And you're like, oh, my uncle gave me the money. Okay, can you give us a copy of the wire or the canceled check? He gave me cash. Well, sorry, we can't use that money to qualify. Okay, so that's a big problem. So sometimes the lenders will allow you to write a check to your uncle and then have your uncle write a check back to you. It's still a cash deposit. It still could be an issue. Just don't do it. And if you tell them deposit in the bank and send it to me. Don't get money orders. Money orders, same as cash. Where'd it come from? We don't know. Problem is, this is all about, like a lot of things in life, that other people did things to screw everybody else up because they tried to figure out a way around things, got caught, went under, foreclosure, and they do audits, forensic audits of why do people go under foreclosure? And then they back it up to, well, the cash was this problem, or the income wasn't really what it was. There's a lot of, there used to be a lot of fraud. They really catch the fraud now. Like, for example, if you give tax returns that aren't the real tax returns, not only will you be denied for the mortgage, but you're put on an ugly list and you're going to have problems going forward. And they can turn you into the Justice Department for filing a fraudulent tax return because you don't know which one's real, or attempting mortgage fraud, which has penalties of 10 years in jail and $1 million fine. Let me repeat that. 10 years in jail and $1 million fine. Okay? For mortgage fraud. It's not worth it, kids. Totally not. Okay. Well, I'm going off and I'm scaring everybody. But the bottom line is
fully written, underwritten, pre-approval. That's going to set you off on your search. So you're confident that you can search for the scope of houses that you're looking for. It also allows you to find, if you find the right house, to jump on it immediately.
Exactly. And you'll know what price range you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll know what your monthly payment is sort of going to be, because interest rates change literally every day, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day. So the other thing is, when you're comparing mortgage lenders, first of all, try to find one that has their interest rates online, so you can put in a criteria and get a rate of what would have been if you locked in today as their rates. Because if you call up Joey Schmoey, the mortgage broker, who doesn't have anything online, you tell him your criteria, and then he says, oh, I can give you 4.5 with no points. Well, how do you know? Because nothing's in writing and rates change every day. The only way to compare people is if you can get it on an online thing, and at Arrivva.mortgage or Arrivva.com/rates, you can get our live rates depending on your situation. So you have an idea. So don't go shopping too hard for rate when you're getting that fully underwritten pre-approval, but ask that question about being fully underwritten, and they hem and haw even a little bit, say, thank you very much. Nice talking to you. And most people don't do these fully underwrittens. And we find that it's so much better. It just makes so much sense. So anyway, going back to this, you'll know roughly what price you're going to be able to go for. Rates, I don't see them going crazy in either direction. So we're probably pretty stable for now, but anything can happen. One bomb drop somewhere and rates can get down all the way or skyrocket. So
you've gotten the fully written underwritten pre-approval. Mortgage is squared away. Mark, for the first time home buyer, what's the second step of the real estate search now that mortgage is squared away?
Now it's time to start looking at homes. That's really important. You can start doing that on the internet and do it on your own, look at Zillow, et cetera. And then thinking about how you're going to be properly represented in the transaction. And that's where the role of us, the buyer's agent, we come in. And really what we're there for is explaining. So if you were to look at San Diego as an example, since I cover San Diego, it is a very unique market. It's different than really just about everywhere. And those differences are things like limited housing inventory compared to demand. Prices are higher than the national average. So really, your strategy and preparation matter more here than they do in other areas. But one thing to keep in mind with the proper guidance and really setting yourself up for success, first-time buyers are still going to be able to succeed. Mm-hmm. So that's where going back to the role of the agent, the buyer's agent.
Let me add this. You're also going to look at real estate commission. And you're going to be presented with a buyer broker contract. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of really important things you got to look at besides the buyer broker fee is exclusivity. So you have to look at the contract. Do not just sign any contract you get.
Especially not at the first open house you go to.
That is one of the most pathetic things. Real estate agents do open houses to find buyers, period, done, end of sentence. Learn that. You're going in there, you're like prey to them. So in the contract, it'll say that it is an exclusive contract, meaning even if you go to another agent, you still owe that agent their 2.5% or whatever. I can't believe anybody you charge less than 2.5% is going to do exclusive, but, and you got to know what the number is. And ask them why. Why are you charging 2.5% when Arrivva only charges $97.50? I can't wait for that answer. Oh, well, we do this and we did. Well, believe me, we do absolutely everything. This is something I was going to throw to you, Drew, that we need to somehow put on our site. We give world-class real estate service. Mm-hmm. It's we toot our own horns. I always say, look at our reviews. Our reviews are completely independent. They're on Google and Zillow. We didn't write them. We didn't hire anybody to write Google reviews. These are actual customers. We just know what we're doing, soup to nuts, and we're going to walk you through the whole process. So back to the things in the beginning. Mark mentioned local markets, but you know what? It's not always about the local markets, because some of the markets, let's take Cupertino, for example. It's a 9 or a 10 school district. It's close to Apple headquarters. Guess who wants to live there? And guess how many employees Apple has? Below, the competition is insane. So for that kind of a market, you're going to pick the house because there's limited amounts and there's 1 million buyers. So we're going to help you get the property by being able to talk about what we think it's going to go for. Obviously, we have the commission advantage. You go to Intero or Compass or Coldwell Banker or whomever, we're going to charge you 2.5% because of their value, which I still don't know what it is, we're only going to charge $97.50. So on a $3 million house, you figure it out. That's like, I don't know, 60, 70 grand that you can use to buy the house with, as opposed to giving it out in commission. It's all, what does the seller net after commission? That's the number that they look at. So if they're, $3 million, but there's 100,000 in commission, that's 2.9, and we're only 97.50. So that's closer to the 3 million, way closer to the 3 million. What's the seller going to take? They're going to take our offer. That's why you deal with us. This goes down to about 479,000, I think was the number. I forget. We did the actual number to compare it to the 3%. Take the
386.
386. Thank you. So anything over 386, we're going to make sense in using us as opposed to them. So you have to be cognizant in the bottom line, because we may not be in your state, but you have to be cognizant of what the commission is, the exclusivity clause, services provided, because there's a lot of cheapo brokers out there. Hey, I'll charge you $2,500 and I'll just prepare the paperwork and you do everything else. You have to realize what you're going to get. But you're going to get with us a lot of digital hand-holding. That's a good new phrase I have. Meaning we have Slack channels that we're going to bring you in. It's like having, messages on your phone. You're going to be able to text anything to us. We're going to add all your documents in one place. There's no emails or regular text because it's all in one place. Now, if an agent doesn't even know what Slack is, they're behind. They're from another era.
So
I've been using
Slack. Going to ask the agent or whoever you're considering what sort of communication style they're going to have as you're going down this road with them, and make sure that you have an agency like Arrivva that's on the cutting edge and has the proper communication channels.
Right. Everything's centralized. Hey, if they have a centralized thing, great. So if they don't, and if they have a team, this is another complaint I get from people who tried other agents, came to us. It's like you get texts from different people who are part of the team. Just because somebody has 60 million people on their team doesn't mean they're better. Mm-hmm. It's like, herding cats. Susie can't share the house. Joe will share the house. And then you have a rapport with Joe, and then Susie comes back. And then next thing you know, Ahmed is taking over. It's just crazy. Consistency, answering questions, having everything in one place to go back and see them. So, okay. So let's get a little bit back into this. So again, we've covered the buyer's pre-approval, the communication, the exclusivity, the buyer broker fee. Now you get into it. So a couple ways to see properties, really basically two. You go to an open house. Here's the thing about open houses. As I said, they're there to get you to sign up. Don't sign anything. They're in just about every state, I'm sure. There is no reason to sign anything. And if you sign, Mickey and Minnie Mouse at AOL.com, just that's it. Do not give them a real email. Do not give them your real name. And don't make them remember you. As excited as you're going to be about seeing a house, the last thing you want to do is alert the real estate agent that you like it. Oh, you like it? Oh, this is great. Well, guess what? They may cost you more money to buy the house because they know you really like it and you'll pay more. But that's our job, to be your wall. But you need to help us out a little bit by not being happy. You can ask the agent, when was the basement installed or something? When did they make it a full basement? Common things about the physical property, nothing else. Really, everything else is something we can dig into together and find things out. Sometimes it's the actual listing agent. Sometimes it's a buyer agent who knows nothing about the property. Mm-hmm. You never know who's going to be there. So that's the one way. Keep it cool. Just Act like you don't like it. Don't sign anything and leave.
No emotion.
No emotion. I know it's hard, but that's what I am. I'm no drama Fred.
Yeah. It's a game of cards.
It is. It is. And that's why we're here as your buyer broker to do this for you. There's services out there. You can be your own buyer broker or you can represent yourself. But especially for first timers, it just makes no sense. You're going to make mistakes. It's like me trying to become a nuclear scientist. It's like, I know the words, but that's it. So we go along. Was there something I want to add to open houses? Yeah, here it is. If you think it's going to be a popular property, pretty house, great neighborhood, go to the very first open house at the very first minute. If you see 50 people in line, which is not unusual in the Silicon Valley, then you know it's not going to go for the price that they're asking. It's going to go for a heck of a lot more. And so therefore, you're going to have to waive the mortgage contingency. And guess what? You're able to do that because you're already got your fully underwritten mortgage contingency. So now you're ahead of the game. And that's one of the reasons to get it. So now we go and you come back and you say, hey, I want to buy this house. So the only way to do it is to put in a contract. It's a legal document. It tells people what they have to do, what the seller has to do, and everybody's got to do it because that's what the contract says. If you don't do it, you're in default. So realize you're getting into a contract. And by the way, in the meantime, between the mortgage approval and you starting to look for houses and putting contracts in, do not buy a new car and have a $700 payment. You just blew your ratios. Don't do anything. You can apply for a credit card, just don't use it. Just wait. Don't buy furniture yet. Mm-hmm. So that's an important thing to realize. So you get into this contract and there are things you have to put in the contract. Number one, what the purchase price is going to be. Number two, when can you make settlement? And that, or closing, or close of escrow, depending on what state you're in. That can be determined by the seller saying, oh, I need 45 days to close. And they put that as a note in the MLS. Or it's going to be a competitive situation and you're going to have to rush the closing to 15 days. 15 days is normal for us with a fully underwritten pre-approval. And it's normal for the likes of Wells Fargo who do this all the time. But there's plenty of mortgage people out there. Oh, we take 21 days or 30 days. Or I have a deal going now with a property that's called a TIC, tenants in common. There's only a few lenders that do it and they take 45 days to close. So, but that's important. You're going to need to tell us how much of a mortgage you're going to take. You can change from there. Nobody's going to care that you showed up at closing with a higher or lower mortgage. They just go to closing. But technically, you're in technical default if you show up not doing it. And if it's a really busy, insane market, and somebody thinks they can get another 50 grand and you show up at closing with the wrong amount, they may try to put you in default, but it's so rare. Don't even just forget about it. Anyway, there's other things. There's contingencies. Now we talked about the mortgage contingency. You could put one in if there's nobody else bidding, even though you're fully underwritten, just because you may have to update a pay stub or a bank statement. It depends on the lender. There is what's called an appraisal contingency. So if you're looking at a $500,000 house and you can get it under contract for $425,000 and the comps in the area are $450,000, I wouldn't worry about an appraisal contingency. If you're, in an area that's a $600,000 house and you put in a bid for $605,000 and there's nobody else bidding for some reason, maybe you put one in. But here's the thing that people don't know or will realize. The appraiser knows the sale price before they do the appraisal. Okay. So guess what? 98% of the sale prices end up as the appraised value. So again, case to case basis, you'll discuss that. The next thing are inspections. So in Northern California, pretty much every listing has this. We do it in Southern California. But old school agents, like there's one at Redfin we're dealing with today, they don't give you the inspections or the disclosures up front. So you have to put in a contingency to get inspections. Now, here's what you have to look at. Yes, we can recommend people we've used in the past to do inspections, but we want you to be comfortable with them. So go out and contact 2 or 3 different companies, see what their prices are, see what they give you. They're all going to kind of give you the same report because there's only a couple of softwares that they're using now. But you want to get a home inspection, termite inspection. As a matter of fact, if you're going VA, you're required to get a termite inspection. We love doing sewer videos. Man, nobody tells you to do a sewer video. Very few real estate agents know to do this, but absolutely insist upon it because you never know what's underground or is going on. Sewer could have been installed 50 years ago and it's collapsing. You don't know until you do a video. So that's important. And the last one is if you needed a roof inspection, you can get the home inspection and then ask them if they're going to need to do a roof. But if you know it's a new roof, you probably will be okay. So that's kind of the one that's, I'd call it a 3/4 maybe if you don't want to do it. But it's good to check everything. Now realize you're going to be paying for these inspections. So you want to find out what the prices are. If you get the inspection back and you don't like the house and you want to get out of the contract based on that contingency, nobody's going to reimburse you for those inspections. So this is money you're going to dole out without getting it back. Occasionally we can negotiate with a seller to buy the inspections, but it's very rare. The other thing you're going to have to pay for in advance is the appraisal. The third thing you have to pay in advance is an escrow deposit for the sale price. So if your sale price is, let's say, $600,000, and in California, it's always 3% of the sale price. So be ready to wire or certified check $18,000 to the escrow company or whoever in the contract it says to send the money to. Your agent will help you set up with the escrow company and make sure you get to the right person and you wire it to the right place. But that's part of the sale price. So in the end, it comes back as a credit because at the end, you'll see this sheet. It's like a debit and credit. And so it's not an additional $18,000, but that's something you're going to have to put up. Anyway, and the rest of it's follow the contract. Things like if it's a condo association, they have to get you the condo docs within a certain number of days. The disclosures within a certain number of days. Like if you're up in Washington State, there's a seller disclosure, and normally you get that way up front as part of the contract. That's it. That's all they have to give you. Pennsylvania, same thing, just the seller disclosure. California, there's about, 10 to 20,000 pages of blah, 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 warnings, this, that, and the other thing. And most of it is prefab stuff that you're never really going to deal with. And using the right agent, it's not a problem. But, when you get those reports, you take the inspections and the reports that the seller fills out about the property and about the area, things that are filled in. That's when you put it, and your agent and you independently put it into AI. And we've seen ChatGPT get better and better and better every day because everybody's been dumping them in there for a year now. So it's going to get better. And what you want to do is you want to say, I'm a first-time buyer. I'm a complete idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared to death. Please tell me, oh, great knower of everything disclosure-wise in the state of blah, 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 and incredible knowledge of repairs and construction of residential property. What's wrong with this place? How much is it going to cost with union labor in my location? That's important because you want to get not cheapskate prices. You want to get high prices, what its worst case going to be, and what's important, what's not important, things I should look at right away. So from there, you and your agent compare the notes, and then you're going to go back because in the contract, you have X number of days to send them a request for repairs, a request for a credit. So it's not like you have 10 days to do the report, let's say, and then you negotiate. You have 10 days to go back to the listing agent and say, this is what we want.
Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
So basically, I'm going to give you kind of a quick high level overview, back to basics for someone in San Diego. So typically a first-time buyer is going to be looking, because the market is higher than the national average, condos, townhouses, or smaller single-family homes. Sometimes those homes might need some light cosmetic work. So those are all things that are going to get you into this market. You look at this first home as a stepping stone, not your forever home. Basically, fears that Fred started to touch on with first-time buyers. Big one is the fear of overpaying, concern about repairs, and worrying about making a mistake. These are all normal feelings. And that is really the crux of why the inspections and disclosures are so important. They're there to protect. Words of wisdom or advice. You want to get educated early. You want to ask lots of questions. And don't compare your situation to others. Your journey is going to be different. One last thing, focus on making smart decisions for your situation.
Here's another, you talked about condos and townhouses. Everybody says, oh, I don't want high condo fees. Well, there's actually a reason the condo fee is high. It's actually a good thing. So Florida just went through a nightmare because they changed the laws about balconies, and Fannie Mae then came out with basically a rule. You can't get a loan unless the condo association has gone through what's called a reserve study in the last 3 years. What does that mean? So let's say you got a building with 20 units. They say, a professional comes out and says, okay, your roof is going to go in about 15 years. So what you want to do is you want to set aside, making up numbers here, $1,000 a year, so that in 15 years, a little interest, you're going to have enough money to pay for the roof. So they take every single one of those components, the roof, the hallway painting, the elevator repair, and put it all into a number and come up with what they call the reserves. So every month, as part of your monthly fee, it may be $500 a month, $200 are for operating, $300 might be for reserves. So it's going to look high compared to the guys down the street, where it's only $200 a month, but they have no reserves. Plus, you won't be able to get a mortgage. So in Florida, people were having pony up $50,000 to get to the reserve account, and they just literally walked away. And these places are completely worthless. So there's a reason those condo fees are high. Every condo is a nonprofit. The only one is can be negotiated really is the management fee. That's, could be a big number that could be adjusted to lower things, but basically, it costs to repair something. It costs to run the elevators and maybe some external landscaping and driveway maintenance. So it all costs money. So don't look for the lowest condo fee. You're going to have a lower price or lower condo fee. There's no doubt about it. But again, financing could be a terrible problem, or not at all, really. Mm-hmm. So it's the type of property we're able to guide you. We know you're going to get excited looking at listings. And by the way, we've added listings to our site for a lot of areas. You can check on there and be tied right in. But be careful. We'll filter it out for you once you find it and deal with reality.
Well, this has been a very big deep dive into the basics of buying real estate, which turns out to be not so basic, which is why you need a qualified real estate agent to help you guide through this process. As we wrap down and ask one sentence is all you can do. You got to compress. Mark, what's the biggest mistake first-time buyers make?
Moving too quickly because of emotion.
Very good.
Really?
Fred.
Using the wrong agent because they saw them on TikTok.
Two very thought-provoking answers. This has been We Fixed Real Estate.